Hello, guys. Hudson here today, and what I want to show y'all today is Arcane Mage gameplay on beta, specifically Mythic Plus stuff. I have a lot of people asking about how Arcane Mage feels in Mythic Plus, and especially with these new talent changes, switching Arcane Orb with Enlightened in the talent tree, I think it's feeling pretty good, and I think Arcane Mage, in terms of feel, is in a really good spot. Again, this is beta, so I don't want to comment on like DPS numbers or tuning exactly, because that's still up for debate, and I'm not really going to go into covenants too much, because in most of my testing, I've just been playing Night Fae. Just because it's Mythic Plus and it has like an AoE ability, and it's easier to not switch through different covenants while testing. But that's that, and I guess we can get into things. So, the new talent changes are Arcane Orb switched with Enlightened in the talent tree, right? So Enlightened used to be here, where Arcane Orb is, and Arcane Orb used to be here. So Arcane Orb, you would sometimes pick it in Mythic Plus, but generally Overpowered was just good enough to be picked in AoE even. Also, ignore this Overpowered tooltip saying that it increases damage by 70%. They actually nerfed it. That shows a buff, but it actually got nerfed to 50% instead of so Arcane Power is a base 30% spell power increase, and spells cost 30% less, but Overpowered buffs it to 50%. And then this tooltip's just bugged right now. But what that allows you to do is, in my opinion, get a more fun playstyle for Mythic Plus in AoE scenarios, right? Because this row is like solely AoE. It's gonna be solely AoE, and even in single target situations, I'm not sure how it's gonna be tuning wise, or like how we're going to optimally play in the end. But right now, it looks like Arcane Orb is going to be the default choice for single target here, because these two just don't do as much damage, right? And they're on, like, this is on a longer cooldown than Arcane Orb. Arcane Orb generates a charge and does more damage. Reverberate isn't good at all in single target. It has no benefit. But Arcane Orb looks pretty good for that. So the way this ends up playing, right, is you essentially have like 4 cooldowns, and during the dungeon, you'll see me. I have Arcane Power, right? Your biggest cooldown, it places a Rune of Power as well, and then when you Arcane Power, you can hopefully have 4 charges going into it, and then you're gonna, because of Resonance's like AoE increase on Barrage, it becomes really good in Dungeons. Arcane Barrage at 4 charges does, because it hits 5 enemies then. So what you do is you go into Arcane Power with 4 charges, Arcane Power, Barrage, dump them all. And like the biggest goal for AoE in Arcane is to dump your charges into 5 enemies, because it does a shit ton of damage, absolute shit ton of damage. So, you Arcane Power, Barrage, dump all your charges, then you generate charges with Touch of the Magi and get that Touch of the Magi on an enemy, and then you dump all the charges from that Touch of the Magi, and you're empowered with Arcane Power into that enemy, and then you Arcane Orb, and you do another Arcane Barrage. So just within like 5 globals, you get 3 full-ass Arcane Barrages into enemies powered with Arcane Power. It feels really good right now. You can do like a shit ton of bursts, and it's not just like Arcane Explosion spam into Arcane Barrage. It's like you have like other things. And then not to mention that now you have like smaller cooldowns, which kind of pair well with Shifting Power, right? And that's kind of why I was playing it, but I don't want to go into the Covenant stuff too much. But you have like Arcane Orb on a 20-second cooldown, so just you can essentially use it on cooldown to like regen all your charges and just blow up enemies with Arcane Barrages, like full Arcane Barrages back to back. And if you have these all lined up, back to back to back. So it's really, really nice. And then having that Rune of Power every 40 seconds is also super nice. 45 seconds, sorry. You can kind of line it up with Touch of the Magi, but more than likely what I've been doing is I've been using the Rune of Power with my second Arcane Orb. So like I'll Arcane Power, Touch of the Magi, Arcane Orb, and then once that's all done, and then just go into like Arcane Explosion spam into Arcane Barrage, and then once that's over, and then my Arcane Orb is about to be up again, I will Rune of Power once I have 4 charges, Arcane Barrage, and then then Arcane Orb, Arcane Barrage, and then go into the rotation again. And then what's crazy is like you actually have enough mana for your character to like spam all of this the whole time. It's kind of wild. the Arcane Barrage mana regen. I don't know if it's the mana regen from Arcane Barrage that's giving you all this mana regen, or if it's just like your baseline abilities don't cost enough, but I would expect Blizzard to fix this, because otherwise you're never really mana starved, and like you weren't at the end of BFA and Mythic Plus. I didn't really play Arcane at all in the beginning of BFA, so I don't know what it was like then, but from what I understand, you were a lot more mana starved than you are currently. I could be mistaken there, though. But currently, in beta, you're not mana starved at all. You have, like, full mana all the time in AoE, it feels like, at least. And you can drink whenever in Mythic Plus. You can go to the side and invis even during a pack if you wanted to, and get mana back. I rarely touch my evocation button during Mythic Plus. But in boss fights, the longer they are, you will need to evocate. But even, like, even compared to BFA right now, I feel like you have more stringent mana requirements in BFA. And also, notice that, like, Enlighten's down here, so I'm not taking Enlightened. It doesn't feel good right now, and I imagine Overpowered will sim better and be better, but I could be wrong on that, again. But not playing with Enlightened is kind of nice, because you don't have to be stuck above that 70% mana threshold, right? To be doing optimal damage. And then just to analyze these down a little bit more, rule of threes, I picked this just to get a little bit more single target damage. But it might not be needed. You might end up picking Arcane Familiar, but then again, you don't need the mana. So I'm not really sure what to do in this row. Arcane Missiles looks super strong right now. I'm not sure if it needs nerfs or not, but I'm not super familiar with the playstyle, but there's a lot of like Arcane Missiles spam going into if you have the Arcane Echoes talent. But for my purpose of this video, I just wanted to like do like the traditional AoE rotation for Arcane Mage, but with the new Arcane Orb. And especially, Resonance looks especially good with the new Arcane Orb, being able to generate so many generating so many Arcane charges to then funnel into your barrages into these enemies. Overall, I would say the Arcane rotation that I was playing feels really good. Even without the Night Phase CD reduction, it feels really good, and the cooldowns can line up, and I'm not sure how to optimally line them up yet, but with further investigation, theory crafting, and sims being generated, we will eventually know that in the next, like, 2 to 3 months, right? And I'm super excited for that. It seems like it's going to be a really fun spec to play. It can have a little bit of, like, startup time, and if mobs don't live, like, 20 to 30 seconds, and you're popping your cooldowns, you're not gonna do optimal damage. That happens a lot in my testing, because I'm doing, like, 10s, and shit dies super quick. But that's a downside for a lot of specs. Frost doesn't have that too much, but I would say like Fire, that happens too in late BFA, and Fire is the best Mythic Plus DPS in late BFA, right? So like, we'll see how it plays out, but I really like the playstyle is what I'm trying to get at. I think it's fun, and I don't think it needs to change too much. Some people do. If you think it needs any changes, please let me know in the comments. I could totally be swayed. To believing otherwise. Alright, so I just wanted to show you the rotation in action so you can see how much AoE DPS is going on and how smooth and fun it is right now. I guess we can get into things, but I'm not sure if it's better to touch the Magi and then Arcane Power, but that's what I've been doing typically, if I'm not going into a pool with full charges. But let's get into things. See, like, how smooth does that feel, just getting both of those barrages out right at the beginning? Like, some nice-ass burst. And then... and just like those instant charges feel so nice. And I'm not sure if using Shifting Power during your rune is the best idea, but the thing is it does benefit from rune, actually. So it may end up being the play, maybe depending on mob density or something like that. But, like, I just feel like I'm generating charges so fast, and it feels quite good. Like I may have mentioned earlier, this is a little bit tough in actual Mythic Plus scenarios right now, at least for me, whenever I'm running like 10s and stuff, because it feels like the mobs don't live long enough. But I imagine that this will stop being a problem later on, as we get to higher and higher keys and such. But we will see. So. I think that this is a good change overall. It's not like an amazing change, I wouldn't say, because it still has some, like, the talent tree still has some problems. Like Reverberate's only good in AoE, but if Arcane Orb ends up just being better in AoE, it'll be better in AoE and single target, because Reverberate literally has no place in single target at all. And then Supernova is like a weird talent where I believe in BFA it doesn't interrupt stuff. I thought it did, but I heard someone say that it didn't. So like is Arcane Orb gonna be like the de facto, or will it just come down to like it's a weird situation between Arcane Orb and Reverberate right there in that row. And other than that, I'm kind of happy that you don't have to play Enlightened, or you're kind of not forced to, because I'm not the biggest fan of Enlightened, honestly. I know a lot of people are, because it adds a skill gap, but I don't like having to stay above 70% mana, especially in AoE situations where you kind of want to burn, but you want to stay in the middle, right? Because it's not really possible to stay above 70% mana in most AoE situations. And then I like this because when you have Arcane Orb, it feels like you have a little bit more consistent. Like, just adding another cooldown is nice because you have a little bit more of a consistent damage profile, and it pairs really nice with the Night Fae Covenant because you're just getting another cooldown reduced. And then getting more damage out because of it. It also pairs well with Resonance, which I really like for AoE, and I kind of like that because Resonance felt bad to pick before whenever you took Enlightened in that row, even in AoE situations, or like Mythic Plus, where it's like a mix of AoE and single target. So it felt bad to take Resonance there, and you would take Arcane Echo generally, or at least I would in beta trying it out. Of course, this all comes down to Sims, right? See what would be better. But generally, intuitively, you would pick Arcane Echo, right? And then you would spam missiles during Touch of the Magi because each one of them triggered Echo, and that just felt bad. So I like being able to take Resonance again, actually. I like being able to take Resonance and play Arcane Orb and Resonance and Overpowered, and just being able to generate, like, hella charges and then just throw them out there. I like this playstyle a lot more than the one that was in the build prior to this, I guess is what I'm saying. And I think that if this went live, this would be a fun playstyle, and I would really enjoy playing Arcane Mage. Prior to this, I felt like I liked Frost a lot more, but after this, I really don't know. I really do like Arcane. The biggest drawback is I don't know how single target will pan out. We have to wait for Sims, of course. And the other downside, I would say, is it takes a little bit of ramp up. Like, it sounds stupid because, like, you saw like how you can burst really quick, but you don't always have all your cooldowns together. So whenever you like Arcane Power, like shit's dying so quick in these 10s that it feels kind of bad. And the stuff has to be relatively close together for your barrage to hit. But that's something that you could work on, I guess. And if Blood Decay becomes meta, Mass Grip's going to be kind of sick for that. Also, another thing to note is that barrage is capped to 5, right? It won't gain any additional damage past 5 targets, not even like square root or anything, right? So it's hard capped to 5, but Arcane Explosion is not capped, and I don't believe Arcane Orb is either. But Arcane Orb's like a small amount of damage. But having an uncapped AoE like Arcane Explosion is super nice. And then having that barrage be a lot of your damage as well. Whenever I was doing Mythic Plus, I think it was like 30, or whenever, not Mythic Plus, the training dummies with 4 of them. I think it was like 30%, 30%, or maybe it was like 40%, 40%. But it's more evenly split, because earlier, or like in BFA, I was doing like most of my damage as Arcane Explosion, and then Barrage wasn't as much. But with this new build, Barrage seems to be more impactful, which I like. But that might not be as good whenever you're doing massive pools. But what I'm trying to say is that I like Arcane because you do have that uncapped AoE potential with Arcane Explosion. Well, as always, thanks for watching, guys. Please let me know what you think about this build and these talent changes for Arcane, whether you think it's positive or negative, and what you've been doing, and what you've been worried about or concerned for Arcane Mage's future in Shadowlands. I appreciate you watching. Please leave me some feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, or leave me a comment if you did not. As always, take it easy.